how are hurricanes in Jacksonville, in St. Johns County, and St. Augustine. We're going to deep dive into what's happened in the past and then how bad the hurricanes are. Are they going to blow your house down like the big bad wolf, or are they not quite as bad as you expect? And then at the end of the video, we're going to brush up against what flood insurance is, how much it ranges, and then also the building codes in Northeast Florida. So first things first, we have to kind of set the stage. When you think Florida, absolutely, we think about the hurricane capital of the world, definitely the hurricane capital of the United States, and we think alligators, right? The interesting thing is, like, when hurricanes get riled up, they just pummel South and Central Florida. But whenever they're coming up the coast, there's like a little niche in Northeast Florida that the hurricanes just come up and they kind of do a bank shot off of, and then they continue on to the Carolinas. Believe it or not, the last direct hit of a major hurricane was in 1964. So for all the number junkies and the ones that like playing the odds, I found this. For every year, the chances of a Category 2 or higher hurricane hitting Jacksonville is a 1 in 14 chance. So how do you prepare for a hurricane? Well, first things first, you want to load up with fuel. Fuel for your car, fuel for your generator. If you don't have a generator, that's a really nice addition because it keeps the refrigerator running and the air cool. I know if mama's hot, everybody's upset. So we want to make sure that mama stays cool. You also want to make sure that you have batteries and anything to prepare you for whenever you lose power. I would also recommend that if you are the type that does want to evacuate, to leave earlier because the interstates get gridlocked really quickly and you could be sitting hours and hours in traffic trying to escape the impeding storm. So I do want to just pause and say, this video is not intended to scare people. Like, honestly speaking, in Jacksonville, hurricanes are kind of like the boogeyman in the closet. They're much scarier than they actually are in real person. So us locals and Floridians, our blood pressure doesn't rise whenever hurricane season is approaching. Whereas I know when I talk to a lot of families from out of state and out of town, their number one concern is, what about the hurricanes? And it's really not like that. So some recent storms that you would recognize was Hurricane Matthew, which was a Category 2 that hit in 2016. That caused a lot of rain and a lot of flooding. Then, believe it or not, in 2017, Tropical Depression Irma, like, she wasn't even a hurricane. She was downgraded to a tropical depression, but she just sat over Jacksonville for 3 days and just dumped all of this rain. And so since flooding is really the big danger with hurricanes, we're going to talk about that at the end of the video, so be sure to stick around with that. Plus, I'm going to give a map so you can search flood zones and link my insurance agent if you want to get flood insurance quotes. How long have you lived in Florida?
I've lived in Florida for almost 30 years.
30 years. So when you hear about hurricanes in Jacksonville, what do you think about it? Does it stress you out and like turn you into panic?
You don't want to underestimate a hurricane, obviously, but I think the media and stuff will feed off of them and blow them up a bit. But I think being a surfer and living in Florida, you learn how to forecast properly, and there is a line. You have to be serious. It is a serious thing, and you need to prep. Everybody should always be prepared with a prep box and everything, and living on the beach especially, you need to take the precautions. But man, I've lived here almost 30 years, and I think maybe 5-6 times it's been serious. So
cool.
It's a beautiful place to live.
It is. This is awesome, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, so cool. So now let's jump into the different categories of hurricanes. They range from Category 1 up to a Category 5, and you'll be able to see the wind speeds in each of these categories. Based on the category is going to determine the different types of damages you can expect or might expect. 1 and 2, very common, and what you can expect with that is down limbs. Is going to knock some of your lawn chairs over. You may get some power outages just because of the limbs landing on the power lines. All right, let me just pause for a second. Let my brain catch up. It happens multiple times throughout the day. And I remind everyone I have 6 kids, multiple times. A lot of times it's because I'm just reminding myself because the reality hasn't set in. Once we get into Category 3, 4, and 5, that is where you're going to begin to see some evacuations, maybe some mandatory evacuations. Now, what mandatory evacuation means, oftentimes is around the coast, it's around the river, the intercoastal, and the reason they evacuate those areas is because flooding. Category 3, 4, and 5, that's where you're going to be looking for damage with mobile homes and maybe older homes. Now, the newer homes, you're really not going to see this. And if you're thinking, hey Josh, what about block homes? We see the block homes in South and Central Florida. Why don't they build block in Northeast Florida? Well, based on all the engineering plans and all the studies, it's just not necessary. The 2 key things that are really set apart for these wood homes here in Northeast Florida are higher wind resistant windows and then hurricane tie downs that anchor the frame of the home to the roof to the foundation. Okay, so let's talk about flood zones and what you should be aware of if you're thinking about moving to Jacksonville, St. Johns County, St. Augustine. I'm gonna drop the link in the description of the FEMA flood zone search map. That way you can put in the address if you're looking at a home or the general area and know exactly what the flood zone is. You're looking for the letter X. An X flood zone means that it's not part of a flood zone. That's a beautiful thing because it doesn't cost you extra money. It also means it's gonna withstand the 100-year storm. Even if you're not in a flood zone, you still can get flood insurance. I just talked to my insurance agent. I linked her below, but I just talked to her this morning. She said, hey Josh, for a general house, general size in St. Johns County that's not in a flood zone, that flood insurance premium ranges around $300 to $600 a year. I say, hey, for $300 to $600 to cover yourself from the 100-year storm, go ahead and do it. It's worth it. After shooting this video, I'm afraid that I maybe turned the boogeyman into Goliath, and I don't want you to feel like that at all. Jacksonville is different from the rest of the state of Florida. So here's the thing, if you're thinking about moving to Northeast Florida, St. Johns County, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, I really want to be your resource, your go-to resource, and surely you have more questions. So reach out to me, send me a text with those questions that you're thinking about. It may be the different areas, maybe different communities, different builders, whatever it is, my goal is to make your life easier. So reach out and one of my amazing partners or I will connect with you and set you up with a perfect game plan. I'll see you on the next video.